Welcome, Japan.
Hey guys, it's showtime. It's time for another episode of Why Come Japan. I'm your host, Jack Black. Jake Black, as the internet has dubbed me. I was checking out a couple of YouTube comments about people who kind of stumble upon this podcast, and they say, "Hey, there's this podcast of this guy, this Jake Black looking guy. That's me." And today on my show is data engineer Mr. Sebastian. How are you?
Hello,
today,
guys.
Sebastian?
Hi, Radley or Jack Black. Thank you very much for inviting me to the podcast.
It's Jake Black. Jake
Black.
Not Jack. According to
Jack
the internet.
Thank you, Jack Adelstein. And it's just really a pleasure to be here and just to speak about I guess my experiences and how I got myself into Japan. Caveat there that I'm not in Japan right now, but I've been there on and off for 5 years.
Right. I guess for a little background about our guest and his illustrious life is you're half Japanese, right?
Yeah, so I'm half Japanese and I'm half Spanish.
Puerto Rican, right?
No.
No? Fuck.
No.
Why did I say Puerto? I don't know. All right, help me out.
I don't know. No, it's fine. So I would say pretty much I was born in Chile, but my mother's side is from Spain.
I don't know. Probably because the last guest was from Puerto Rico. I don't know.
I guess could be, but close shot. Don't worry, Jack Adelstein. But
yeah,
I'm gonna be calling you that the whole time. But
This podcast would probably have a lot better numbers if he was doing the show. Anyway,
jokes aside, no. And I was raised in the States throughout my whole life. However, I was raised in a pretty much Spanish and Japanese household. I also lived in Hawaii. That required me to be really close to the Japanese community and to study abroad, go to local schools in a very doinaka countryside, and more recently work in the IT space in Japan. I gaishike, a global company, but my role is very Japan-centric, meaning there was a lot of I think a lot of the corporate customs that you would see in a Japanese company, but in a global company, and seeing that collide, being something so global, such as American philosophy when it comes to doing certain executions, but with a Japanese twist, that was just fascinating in itself, but also very frustrating. So I guess that's me in a nutshell for now.
Oh, you're wearing a T-shirt, or for audio listeners, they can't see this, but you're wearing a T-shirt that says Shibuya Daigaku. Is that where you went to school?
It doesn't exist.
Okay. I didn't think that. I've never heard of it before.
Yeah, so my colleague at where I'm working at right now, he creates shirts that are called Shibuya Daigaku, and they're apparently very popular with foreigners, particularly Chinese, in Tokyo. And there's a lot more people buying in China right now, so I'm just promoting his swag right now.
Oh, well, okay. I guess I should probably mention you're coming to us live from Singapore.
Yeah.
I feel special saying that. Like, we got an international show. Yeah, no, it seems like you've been seeing Japan has been seeing a lot of influx of more Chinese tourists recently.
Yes.
I think that like a lot of them are kind of surprised by how rich a lot of them are, especially in Japan. You get that feeling?
Well, I would say to take a step back, so my partner, she's Japanese, and she has a lot of business trips in China. But long story short, what I've learned from her is that when Chinese go to, talking about mainland China, when they visit Japan, they do a lot of buying errands on the behalf of people in their town, their friends and families. So they have like a lump sum of money to be able to spend a lot in Japan. And they often congregate around like Ginza, Ueno, and I think those are two primary ones. Because I used to live in Ueno, so that I could say it was always tons of Chinese people there. But it's just insane the amount of stuff that they buy, Yeah.
Oh, right. Well, I mean, that's the number one complaint. I mean, like you go on the train, they're like surrounded by suitcases.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. It's good for tourism. The only thing is that
I don't know about being on the train for tourism, but yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think it's one of those things that Japan is always boosting about tourism. There's a big push for the Olympics for anything. Like that's like one of the biggest things. And I don't know how others see it, but me being in a Japanese household and just dealing with Japanese people, for me, it seems to be like a discreet way of saying, we're proud to be Japanese. Yes, we have this sense of nationalism, but it's not really nationalism. So let's just have a facade and use the Olympics as a way to anchor that. So that's the way I see it. But then when it comes to actually trying to take in a large numbers of different foreigners, tourists or actual working foreigners, I don't think there's much more of a mental preparation for that. So those are just one of the things that really make me question how global can Japan be moving forward.
I don't think it's gonna be. I know. I'm picturing Japan having this real oh fuck or oh shit moment like at some point, you know, because like you go to some companies here and they're still using freaking XP. But I don't know. Maybe that's not just Japan. Maybe there's other places in the world that are still using XP as Windows XP as their service provider or not operating system.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, there's a lot of cases where in these Japanese companies. So I used to work in a very Japanese company as an accountant way back. That's when I first met you, actually. And
Okay.
yeah, and during that time, it was a business salary man. I took the classes. I went to a lot of Kengaku where you go to these companies and see how they build the product. Um, and in that company, we had a lot of backwards processes, such as needed to process receipts, and rather than just scanning them in bulk, we had to use Inkan and move them around. Then we would have to do mokushi and look at everything with our eyes first to see if everything's checked. Then we use a fax machine to fax someone else in finance and then scan it. I don't understand the reason for
So
all those
much
steps.
fun.
Right,
Because
but
that's
it
the
seems
way
to
it's
be a
done.
process.
It's the way it's always been done.
Exactly. So those are things that make me question how global Japan can be,
Well, it's like one of the former guests of this show, Remino. He has this. It's like this is Japan argument. So I don't know. All right, so backtrack a bit here. So wait, were you born in Chile or no? You're just part Chilean.
Yes. No,
Oh,
I
okay.
was. I was not. I was born in Chile by mistake. I was supposed to be born
All
2 days
right.
later in the States, but
Oh,
nothing
okay.
happened. Yeah. So yeah.
But you live majority of your life in the States, right?
Yeah, like when I moved, like 2 months, I was 1 month and a half old, and then I moved to the States.
Okay.
So
So,
yeah,
well,
I
you
have
probably have
no.
no memory of this, and you probably just have a record from papers that say you were
Yeah,
there.
exactly. It's pretty much that. I was able to go over before the wall was built, but pretty good so far.
Okay, I see. And when did you come to Japan and you start living here?
Okay, so I started working as a shakaijin 6 years ago. I first entered an internship at some company called Ebara, where they build pumps, not the Ebara where they make ramen. And I
Okay.
did my internship there. Then I became an accountant. And after a year and a half or so, I just got tired. I got tired of the ammoku no ruru, meaning like a lot of rules that are not spoken of. You just have to figure it out. And and it was so traditional in the sense that men were had to wear uniforms, like their suits and all, but there was a lot of loose rules for it. But women had to wear a uniform and had to serve tea all the time to all of
Right.
us, right?
Right.
Or the other thing is my boss, he was avoiding his wife every night. So what he would instead do is go drinks around Kamada. And one time he invited me to a kyabakura, just to say, I like the nightlife. Do you? Do you like stars? And I go, yeah, sure, why not? So that's what he meant by that. But after that, that was a little too much Japan immersion for me. Then I went back to the States for two
That's more
years.
than just Japan immersion, but okay.
I mean, I know I'm being a little exaggerated. But then after 2 years later, I came back. I transferred well, essentially, I've been in the same company 5 years now, but I was in the Japan office for 2, 3 years already. And now I've just started my role at the same company in Singapore.
Oh, that's great, I guess. I don't know. So you've So wait. Paint me a picture here.
Sure.
So I got the idea that you're born in Chile, and then you lived in,
New
I
York.
want to say Jersey. Oh, it was New York. Okay,
Yeah.
New York. Okay, so New York for about 10 years, 4 years,
'19. Like I would
19.
say,
Okay, that's quite some
yeah,
time. But then you pretty much, because you're fluent in Japanese, and that's your
yeah.
your first language, second language. What would you say?
I don't even know what it is, but I think it was somewhere between Spanish and Japanese because it goes hand in hand. And then when I went to school in the States, I was kind of I was forced to speak English, where then, there were teachers saying, you should only speak English because you might be confused. I think what happened is that I spoke Japanese and people were freaked out. They were like, what is this language this guy is talking in, right? That's what really happened. But
Okay.
yeah, and I've um I've been just visiting Japan for like I guess I was looking at my passport for this before joining this, and I've been in Japan 23 times, and most of the time has been going back to my hometown in Fukui Prefecture, which is in the Hokuriku area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, no, I'm just okay. So can you still speak Spanish?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay. So you speak it every now, because I mean, my dad, he's half Japanese, and if you saw him, you would not think he's Japanese because he doesn't look Japanese at all. Um,
Yeah.
like he told me, like he could speak Japanese when he was born here, but then like now he knows basically nothing because he doesn't speak it at all. I never used it, and he probably won't at any
I
point
see.
in
I
time
see.
in
I
his
see.
life. So okay, so you still maintain it by talking to your parents or
Yeah,
whatever.
my mother's side. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I do have friends that tell me like, man, my Spanish just like really gotten bad. But
I don't
hmm.
know. I feel like I understand what you're getting at. I see that with Japanese Americans or half Japanese that have lived in America. I
Oh
feel
yeah.
like this is just totally my view of things, and I could be completely wrong. But there are two type of people: people that are a little ashamed to speak the language that they relate to. So meaning, oh, so if I'm Japanese, but if I act too Japanese, I seem like a fob. So let me try to be as American as possible. Or the alternative is like, oh my God, I love Japan. Why did I even bother living in the States? Everything's better in Japan. Toto toilets are the best. So there's this hand in hand. I see 50-50 mix of that at most of the jobs I've been in already.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it must be really hard to It seems like a lot of people when they're kind of like they don't feel like they have a place to identify with. They what is it? How do I just explain this? Kind of dissociation problems.
Yes.
Um, or like, for example, I mean, I kind of have this problem too because where I'm from in Colorado, everybody's freaking white. It's like it's
Yeah.
white city, and I'm like they know I'm not white, and people always ask me if I'm like Native American or something, right? So it's like it's a really weird thing to be like to be pointed out. Like you say, well, we know you're not white when I go to America, and then when I come to Japan, like, well, I know you're not Japanese, or I know you're an American. So I guess I can relate to that a little bit in some degree. But for the
Yeah.
most part, I look pretty white, I'd say.
I mean, for me, when I first met you, you were pretty white. I never thought you were from Colorado. I was expecting somewhere from New York
Okay.
or I don't know, maybe Texas or
Yeah.
Florida.
Hmm. Well, I don't have an accent, but I guess you don't have to have an accent to be from Texas. But
Yeah.
what are Texas people like? I'm not even sure. Like, how I'm always amazed by these people who are like, you must be from this place, because I was talking to Higo Simon, YouTuber. You probably know
Oh,
him.
right. Yeah.
And he was telling me he said, well, people from Colorado is a mixed bag, and I'm like, you can tell like where people are from based on their personality. I'm like, okay. Because I mean, like you have people like me and people like Tokyo Sam who are, would you say we're similar?
Um, no, I would
Yeah, I don't think
say
so.
extremely different. Because we're taking away at the part that, the United States is still a melting pot, even though we're building borders right now, and our government back in the States is,
I know. Fun
yeah,
times. I'm glad I don't work for
fun.
the government. That's all I can say.
Yeah, no paychecks in 3 weeks or more already. But anyway,
Yeah,
uh,
it's looking
yeah,
pretty bad.
yeah. But no, I don't know. Like for me, I just felt that you were pretty American, especially when you used to have a lot of your old YouTube videos back, what, 5, 6, 7 years ago. For
It's hard to.
example, Daikon Ashi. I'm still waiting for that, but you know,
Yeah. I'm still waiting for it too. But you have anything else to say about that? That's all. You're just waiting for it. Okay.
no, I was just expecting like I think there's a lot of iterations that have to happen, and at one point, probably, I guess from here 5 somewhat years, I'll be able to see it at an airing somewhere in Tokyo, and I'll just see you there.
YouTube probably. I don't know. I mean,
Twitch at this point, really.
Twitch. All right. Be a Twitcher. I want to be the next Twitcher.
Or if you don't care about copyright claims, you should be the next TikToker.
Yeah, TikToker. I've heard that's actually not that bad. TikTok. It's like Vine in a
It's
way.
Vine and bullying at the same time.
It's Vine and what? Bleem?
Bullying.
Oh, okay. Bullying?
Yeah.
Why is it bullying?
Have you watched a lot of TikTok lately?
No, I mean, a friend of mine was just telling me I just downloaded TikTok and I just thought it was like something for teeny boppers. Then I really started getting into it. Like when I got past all the lip syncers, there was some really cool stuff on there, supposedly. Anyway, no,
Yes.
I don't know much about it.
No, I watch it just to be entertained when I'm really extremely bored. There's a battle between the furries and gamer boys and women that make sandwiches in the kitchen. That's one of those things that are happening right now,
Okay.
and I think things are not happening as they thought it would be. But anyway, that's a completely different story. Yeah.
This whole thing feels like Snapchat to me. It's like I never got into Snapchat. Did you ever do Snapchat? Is that Snapchat still a thing?
I think it quite pretty much died down.
Did
I, I
Instagram stories kill it?
I think so, because I tried it, but I didn't get it. I didn't get the allure of it. Even Instagram stories I don't really get, but I don't know.
Well, I get Instagram stories. It's easier, it's fast, it disappears, and plus it's not because Snapchat just felt like it was just there to do one thing, whereas Instagram was just there to like show you photos and to push that like button because you need that dopamine rush because we're all visual learners out there. That's who we are.
Yeah.
All right, let me talk about you a bit.
Sure.
So this is a question I've always wanted to ask you, and I guess it's always
Sure.
best to ask here. Let's go back to painting that picture. So how did you get into what it is you do? So like the title of the show, I coined you, or I don't know if I coined you or you coined me, or I'm not sure how this worked, but how did you get into data engineering?
Sure. So
You just loved computers or something?
so I've been working with computers on and off. I've done programming since I was in my teens, but I really like statistics and economics, so that's where I went with accounting. But the Japanese corporate life really killed it for me. That's the truth. So I decided to just change gears, and digital marketing was the next thing. So I got my foot in the door with a temp job initially at Google because they were looking for a Japanese speaker in the United States. And from then on, I've been working with them on and off. And now I work in the same industry at both Japan and Singapore. So even if I'm in Singapore, my role requires me to be in Japan quite frequently anyway. So I essentially liked digital marketing, but I had statistics. So I started programming, and now what I do is data engineering, but much more at analytics, both predictive and quantitative, to be able to understand what's the market like and how to get much more market share for particular products. So that's what I do right now. and Japan is just the most complicated market to work with. But still, it's very fun nonetheless. And I plan to do a lot of that moving forward, but the idea being much more management rather than just like being a code monkey.
Oh, all right. So basically, like when you came back to Japan, when you're living in Fukuoka, you're just like, I want to move to the Tokyos. I want to be Tokyo Sebastian, right? I mean, is that kind of how it worked?
Actually, it was kind of slightly, yeah, because I recall the first YouTuber I met was actually TKO Sam.
Just like through like a random search or something.
Well, I first I found what's that, Tokyo Kuni. He started doing a lot of videos.
Was that also a random search? I'm sorry, I'm just curious how people find
that was
people.
Not because I was looking for life in Japan, not necessarily in the sense of how do I live there, but rather how are Westerners adjusting to Japan. And then I found Tokyo Kuni, and then I noticed that Sam popped up in one of his videos or something.
Right.
And then I followed him, but then Sam was making a lot of the Sam Big in Japan videos where there was a lot of this is what I'm doing in Japan, but that's it. So then I followed Roger Swan quite a bit, and I've actually had conversations with him. And then after he passed, Sam and I had further conversations, so that's how we got closer. And at one point I thought, well, let me try Japan again. The first time accounting kind of sucked, but let me try it again. But in a much more global.
You could say Tokyo Sam brought you back to Japan then.
In an odd way, yeah, sure, why not?
Or TKO Sam, I don't know. I'm not sure what moniker he wants to go by these days.
I don't know. I guess, yeah. I don't know what he wants to call himself either. Yeah.
Spam. He wants to call himself Spam. I don't know. Okay, so I could pretty much say that. Oh, that's interesting. So you kind of got interested in the, I guess, life here. I mean, there are interesting things about living here. It's not just karoshi and, I don't know. What's another bad thing that happens in Japan? Besides karoshi.
Japanese people not wanting to sit next to you on the train.
Oh, that doesn't bother me. I don't care. I'd rather not sit next to me.
I think for me though, because like I have a lot of Western friends that visit Japan, and they would stay in my flat, and it was like, why does this happen? And for me, it's like, I feel that a lot of Japanese have a lot of insecurity with their English, so that drives them to the point sometimes of, well, if I'm next to a foreigner, they might ask me a question or bring out a map, so I don't want to avoid any confusion. You could even test this yourself if you are brave enough. Bring a map in English, and as you're sitting next to someone, just like pop it out and see how people react. So, I don't know. But for me, what I felt actually alternatively with Tokyo Kuni and Sam is that they had great content, but I felt that it had too much of a Western lens to things. So there was a lot of things I disagreed with. Let's just put it that way.
Name one.
What's this other guy? I can't remember right now. Oh yes, one of the biggest one is that there's some people on YouTube, not to put names, that paint this view of dating in Japan where, oh yeah, you're a foreigner, so it's so easy, and it's a yes or no. It's a yes no kind of answer. If you want to be kind of the special guy for a night just because you're weird and different, that's fine. But if you're looking for something legitimate, then it gets kind of complicated. And the language barrier doesn't help if you don't speak Japanese. So that's what I'm trying to get at, So it's a lot more to that. So that's why I went to Japan, to figure out myself.
Yeah, no, there's a bit more of a learning curve than everybody makes it out to be. I don't know where, I'm not sure where that, what is it? What's the word? Stereotype or impression comes from? Yeah.
I mean, we have that in Southeast Asia as well. So in Singapore and Thailand, we have the same thing as well. They have a different term. I can't remember, but it's derogatory. But it's essentially, the Japanese version would be like gaijin hanta, right?
Right.
There's definitely people that just want to have some fun with some Westerner, right?
Is that the sequel to City Hunter, Gaijin Hunter?
like
Sorry, I had to throw that one in there. Go
yeah,
on.
Gaijin Hunter Chapter 1, Tikyo Sam. Yeah, but
Some good fan fiction
no,
there.
yeah. But yeah,
Inappropriate sexual touching. Isn't that what City Hunter's known for? We're like,
oh yeah,
you've seen the
yeah,
manga, the anime,
yeah.
and it's
I
all
read it.
about
I
like
read it.
being like, how do I even explain this? Like being forced into sexual positions inadvertently. But anyway,
Yeah, I mean, I
or
felt
maybe
it
that
was a
was
little
what
too
City Hunter
erotic for what
was
it
about.
is. Yeah, and it was popular back in my, high school years. So yeah, it's kind of weird. Um, but to flip the switch, actually, I've always been curious. Likewise, I always felt that you came to Japan, kind of like this is my impression. You could tell me if I'm wrong. Just kind of like, well, why not? And also, I felt that you were influenced by a lot of films that would shed a certain light in Japan, and you wanted to take things from a different angle. So that's why you've been on and off and doing a lot of different video projects and podcasts. So I'm just wondering, do you feel that you've been able to capture the Japan that you want in your mind, or do you feel that viewers don't see it well, or listeners, I guess?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a whoa. What happened there?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, well, I mean, it's kind of been a long journey for me here. I mean, because originally I kind of came here because it was so far away from everywhere else in the world, and I
I
think that's why a lot of people
see.
probably come here.
I see.
Yeah, and there was that, and um, capturing my Japan. I don't know. I mean, I guess I kind of say that in, like the first video I ever made on this YouTube platform, but yeah, I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to make these videos like what everybody else is making because it just seems so tired, and I don't want to lose myself to uh following some trend like to the T, you know. And so I got a lot of what do they say? Like what's the Buddhist philosophy? Like um the passage of least resistance or something. And podcasting seems to be it because I get a lot of positivity. I got a good feedback on the just
Oh,
saying the word
nice.
podcast. I'm not sure why. Um I'm kind of trying to evolve it here and make, move things here and there, but
Right.
for the most part, I mean, I do enjoy living here. I mean, there are some things I'd like to do, and would I want to go back to the States? I don't know. Probably
Well, you've
not.
been there for quite a while, so I guess you
What do they
could.
say? Like, after you stay in Japan for more than 10 years, you're there forever? That's what I've
Yeah,
heard anyway.
pretty much. There's a lot of folks you and I both know, both in the YouTube sphere that have been there 10 plus, and nothing's gonna change. So, you know, um, no, yeah, but Japan is fascinating. I have to say though, getting a work visa aside from teaching and recruiting is quite complicated. That I have to say. So I don't know how a lot of other people are doing it.
I'm sure there's a way. I'm sure you can finagle it somehow. I
There
don't know.
is. So for me, actually, when I wanted to come back the second time, initially my employer was kind of iffy on the idea of me being in Japan. But what I did is then I took a flight and I interviewed at every Gaishke that I could think of. And I got a couple of offers, and I would say, hey, look, these are the companies that want to see me. So can we do something about this, or do I leave? So then at the end, I worked with them to find a company that, sends over expats. And that's how it worked out for me. But that doesn't work out with everyone.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, let me put it this way. You're kind of like one of these rare people because, like, people like me, I can't really get these unicorn positions that a lot of companies want in Japan, where it's like they must have
Right.
Super Saiyan level of Japanese. You know, you must be coming out of the womb speaking Japanese. You know, like, so I'm guessing it's never really phased you when you've like tried to get a job here. Is that true, or you've kind of struggled?
I've struggled when it comes to employers' expectations. What I mean by that is, so I've had an interesting interview with one company that is a major IT company that is in the FANG group. So Facebook, what's the other one? Facebook, Apple, something, right? I can't remember right now. Amazon, yeah. Anyway, it's like one of those companies, right? Excluding Google. And I recall that I said, hey, this is my background in data engineering, my background in marketing, specifically digital and product marketing, and a little bit of accounting, because why not, right? And I've been speaking Japanese, and but a lot of just this is what I did, both English and Japanese. And they go, yeah, but you don't sound native enough. I was like, what do you mean? You don't. Your voice doesn't sound as native as we want it to be. And
What?
It might offend clients, and I go, so wait, you're a global company and you have these PR on LinkedIn saying we promote diversity, but you want people to sound Japanese. And they say, but we also looked at your last name. Your last name's Japanese, but when you see your face, you don't look Asian. And I go, so essentially you want someone looking Asian for the sake of saving face with companies. That's where I just kind of just left the conversation. I said, it's just,
Thank God, that is annoying. It's like you're not. How do you even compete with that? I don't know.
But it's fine for me, because then the flip side of the coin is that, I try to find wherever's the next best opportunity. But if I were to be 100% dedicated to the Japanese way of doing everything, I probably would have to stay in the same company for 5+ years, right? With no actual growth. I mean, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but in a lot of very Japanese companies, you have to stay at least 5+ years, maybe 8 years, to know if you'll ever be promoted. And the cycle's really painfully slow. You see people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and then they get to some management role, right? But the pay is really minimal. I mean,
they don't get to a management role until they're fucking 50.
Yes,
come on.
I'm serious. I'm
serious. I believe you. I'm just saying. Come on.
Look at the guy. Look at the guy that's like, there was this news article in Japan about hacking in Japan, and this guy was like, yeah, we need to ramp up cybersecurity, and they ask him, do you know?
Oh yeah, I saw that. That guy, yeah.
And he goes like, I don't know. So I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. That looked really like there was something else that he was also in the news for something else. Wasn't that he doesn't use a computer? There's also, what was it? I can't remember, but there's like something else, like he couldn't use a computer, and he doesn't have like the people to work on the computers, or I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I don't know. No, but I mean, Japan is a fascinating place. I like that there's a lot of opportunities if you find it. I feel like a lot of people that stay longer find really unique ways to make it happen. The most typical way is jet or eikaiwa, then become a recruiter. And then after they either get too burned out, or they are just good at their job, meaning they could cut throat with other people, then they go into corporate jobs. I say that because there's a very famous recruiting company over there where if you're a jet or a Kaiwa, what they do on the first day of your job, they just give you a phone. That's it. And maybe an old Rolodex, and they say, make calls. And your salary is pretty much 80% commissions and 20% base.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds about right, though. I mean, like, the only other job, like, the jobs you can get in Japan that aren't English teaching is, like, you got headhunting, and you got IT, and that's about it. Or at least that's what I'd say. If you can think of, if you can add anything to that list, please. But it's like, well,
yeah, hospitality, like in Niseko.
Oh, fuck that. No. Or at least the stories I hear about hospitality here in Japan, it just sounds like bullshit. But anyway. No, the reason why, because, okay, for our listeners out there who would probably have no idea what I'm talking about, the hospitality in Japan is like, it's really strict. Like, everything has to be clean. You have to be very, very attentive. Like to give people like an image. It's like, that when you go to the bathroom, the toilet paper, it's wrapped in a special way for you to like, because customers, they need to have an easy way to pull the toilet paper. Like when I was working at Robot Restaurant, they're like really strict about how the toilet paper was folded. Like bullshit like that. Anyway.
But do you now fold it that way so that you can enjoy it with your partner?
Huh? Not really. I mean, sometimes I do, just for fun, because I got so used to doing it. It's kind of like Walter White, like Walter White in Breaking Bad. Spoilers for like a 10-year-old show or 5-year-old show, but there's that scene after he kills the Mexican guy.
Oh yeah,
or Crazy 8, and because he only eats sandwiches without the crust on it, and then he starts, later in the show, he starts eating sandwiches without the crust on it, copying that serial killer or that cartel member, Crazy 8.
yeah.
And like I'm the same way. It's like I just see toilet paper, and sometimes like, maybe I'll just fold it like this because that's what they do here for shits and giggles. But yeah,
Well,
okay. So hospitality service. What was the other one? Is that it?
Hospitality, and I think the other one that I could even think of is bouncer at a club. I've noticed that that's a job that's actually pretty easy.
Well, I'm not a big black dude, so it doesn't work.
No,
I mean, I'm not a big white dude either.
Well, it's usually generally those from Africa, and I don't mean African American. I literally mean Africa.
Right.
And also, it's not African American. It's black, by the way. I don't know why we have that, but anyway. But I've seen bouncers out in countryside that are not necessarily black. They're Hispanics or I guess Russians. And that's one way of doing a job. The other way is just, to be honest, just really random jobs. I know a Chilean guy in Tokyo. He works as a clown in the only circus in Tokyo.
Okay. Yeah. That's a really random thing. I know a guy who works as a clown. All right. All right, this is important. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, one guy I wanted to have on this show, maybe I will have him on at some point, or the new podcast that I'm planning on making. He's a magician. His name is Riken, and he's an illusionist, and he tells me that he makes better money like doing magic shows for adults than he does for kids. You think it'd be better for kids, because magic's like popular with kids, but I guess not. But okay, so you know a clown. Anyone else? Clowns.
I just know some
IT workers
and Disney.
Disney? What?
Yeah, Disneyland.
Oh, you mean like people who dress up there? Because I know that.
Yeah, I know that.
But that's not a full-time thing. That's only part-time, though. Right,
but what happens is some of them go into the Disney resort cruise, where they stay in the cruise for anywhere from 6 months or so.
I swear you're about to say the Disney Vault.
The Disney Vault.
If anybody remembers, like, if you ever watched television back then, because like Disney would always pull out these movies, and then they like saying, "Buy Snow White now before we put it back into the Disney Vault."
Oh, I remember that.
You remember that?
Wow, yeah.
Remember, what was that? JonTron, when he was making YouTube videos.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he goes, "We got this new Third Beast t-shirt. You got to buy it now before it goes into the Disney Vault." I'm like, yes! Somebody remembers that awful commercial. Like, why? Why Disney Vault? It's like, we got to make it seem like it's a Gente Mono, like it's some specialty item.
Yeah, it's
like fuck you.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, so Disneylanders, clowns, IT technicians, English teachers, headhunters.
And a lot of people that just go into regular Japanese jobs. What do you mean as jobs that Japanese would be applicable for? So,
right.
Case in point, Rakuten, the non-engineering side of Rakuten.
Right. I know somebody who works there, I think. A friend of a friend of a friend.
Yeah. So those people generally come out of university where they went to grad school or even they got their PhD in Japan, and then their Japanese is just like up the roof, and they're, I don't know, they have this air of, I've been in Japan so long, but I understand the way of the sword and the way of the wabi-sabi, so please hire me. So that's why, I don't know. I know I'm being a little judgmental, but I say that because I've been in rounds where I work with companies like, we want to be global. Your Japanese is perfect. We like it. But you're not as Japanese as we want you to be. So so that's why I'm saying that.
So wait, you always have to like
Very
find a balance all the time. Yeah, I noticed that with myself as well, but I don't know. It's not just I don't know. I don't think it's just, jobs that require Japanese at such a high level. It's like any fucking job here. It's like, well, you're too Japanese. Well, you're not too Japanese enough. You're too foreign. It's like, make up your goddamn mind. But I don't know. All right.
I mean, it's fine in the sense that, yeah, whatever. But in April, we're going to take in a lot of foreigners for a lot of the service jobs. And Abe refused to call that an immigration policy, but it is an immigration policy. And most likely, we're going to have much more immigrants coming in the future, or having wonky robots help us. Either way, there's not enough people in Japan. I could tell you that. In the
my money's on robots, but
Okay, well, I could tell you that in IT, there is a drainage of talent. There's not a lot of talent in IT for
why do you say
Japan.
that?
So people that come in to be engineers fall into I want to be in Japan, or they come from a country where Japan, you would make a lot more money where they come from. But for other people, and I could say that for myself, I stayed in Japan because I liked Japan, but I knew I was making much less than I would make in the United States or even Singapore.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and plus in Japan, it's especially my team was all Japanese people. It's the only Westerner, so Zangyo overtime was kind of expected, but it was unpaid even, right? Whereas I work in Singapore, especially, they're just like, get out. It's 5 o'clock, get out. So
like, wow, this is so nice.
Right, it is.
I was talking to a friend of mine who's they're kind of at a dead end job. Like not dead end job, I shouldn't say that. They're at a job where like they put her at a desk all the time and she has nothing to do. Like virtually nothing. Right? And so
right.
And she was telling me that like sometimes they offer her like chances like go get a life. Like this is your time right now. You're getting out. Everybody's getting off at 5 o'clock because you need to go get a life. Like, okay. And she was sort of like, what do I do now? I have nothing to do. I guess I'll just check Netflix and watch Batman versus Superman or something. You know? Because why this is happening, I was talking to her, is that I think a lot of companies are trying to really push for like to be more of a quote unquote white company opposed to like a black company, which have been kind of on like Nichanadu, like 2chan.
Oh right, yeah, those
other websites. Yeah. So a lot of them are kind of doing they're trying to like have these attempts of like push people, because like a friend of mine who worked at the hospitality business was saying like that well, not just hospitality, I think he has a different job now, but he was telling me that like some of the companies are trying to push to become more white, so they're saying things like you have paid holidays, take it, you want it, you can have it, you should have that paid holiday, you got a paid holiday coming up, you should use it, so
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, it's so true. I've seen that happen at other companies. Line is actually doing that. So they have
Line? You mean the company itself?
Yes. So they have a branch in Fukuoka where they purposely send all the foreigners over there. You don't need to speak Japanese over there, and they really reiterate and stress on their benefits. They're like, you have paid holidays, you have sick days. That's not a thing in Japan, but we do it. I know how it's in the West. You can experience Japan, but still contribute to Line's growth. And they kind of really stress it on you, so you're comfortable with Line.
Right? It sounds so friendly, but yet so condescending.
Right. It's kind of like you cannot adjust to our ways, whereas the converse, it's like, I want holidays, but I don't want to also be in an environment where it's very hard for me to take a holiday. So then when I come back, people are saying, why you're so selfish? Why did you take some time off? Yeah.
It's like, what the hell? So it's like, it's not really like, remedying the situation. You know, it's like, oh, well, we know we gave you free time. It's just kind of like filling a quota for fucking, what is it? For somebody to say like, no, I gave them free time off. You know, I'm contributing to society. I'm
Yeah,
contributing.
yeah, and it's the other extreme is where you have someone that left for lunch 5 minutes earlier, and then he got fired at some Japanese company, some Japanese dude. And it was a big
What?
scandal.
They get fired for just
Yeah,
when did this
yeah.
happen?
So this happened like 6 months ago. This
6
old
months
guy, he
ago.
left. Yeah, he left for lunch 5 minutes earlier.
I did hear about this. Yeah. Okay.
And he did like once or twice, and he got fired for it. Yeah, and it's
That's
just,
insane.
and there's like there needs to be discipline, and I go like, you're saying this thing, but then this guy that goes up a little earlier and still does his work plus 5 more minutes, and yet you fire him. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of contradiction when it comes to. It's like the West is doing it this way, but it's very hard for us to change our ways. But we need to get global talent because our Japanese talents is either going out of our country or they're just, in roles where they just don't grow, right? I
Right.
know a lot of Japanese engineers that are really brilliant at what they do, and they have burned out, and a lot of them have depression, and they just leave. So then what happens is that you have companies where they try to outsource because they're like, we had great talent, but they left. And the outsourcing in India, um, it's the product is never built the way they intended. So they're in this vicious cycle. And that's very common in Japanese IT companies.
Huh.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about something important.
Yeah. Sure.
How important is your job? What you do? How rate your level of importance of your job?
I don't know how to rate it, but I could tell you is that I help stakeholders across Asia and Japan make data-driven decisions.
Damn. What's that
So,
process like?
so for example, let me try to think of a. So, for example, when I was working at YouTube, I worked with our internal sales and marketing to be able to define an audience that we need to kind of cater to for Brandcast. So,
Okay.
what partners should we be with? What content creators should we be with? And for content creators, what content creators best cater to what industry? So, for example, if you are a CPG, consumer packaged goods company, like what's that? Like would I own a cow in Japan? Then
Okay.
what content creators would be best for that? So then you could kind of do these upsells and do these tie-up doga. So pretty much these videos that they introduce these brands, or even to be with, hey, look, YouTube is not Facebook. We're not a social platform, but we are a video platform, and we have a community. Whereas Facebook has video but no community. And with our content creators, we can maximize your brand, yada yada. And with that type of messages, I would try to dive into the data to actually bring that into fruition. And that's what I
Okay.
did in the past. But now I do something slightly different. But just trying to give you something that you could work with.
Okay. So, well, that sounds kind of cool. I mean,
Thank you.
right. So you have to try to kind of find the right content creator for the right brand in Japan. Is that right? Can I say that?
Yes. So case in point, before I was working with Gillette, and seeing what type of content would work for them, since Gillette is actually struggling. So let's put it this way. Gillette has market share in every country, every part of the world except Japan. For some reason, it's the other shaving company. What is that one? Schlick. Schlick, for some reason, is a lot more popular in Japan.
Oh, I
Yeah.
wouldn't know that. But I guess maybe I just go to a drugstore and find out which one has the bigger name. Yeah, I don't really think of. Oh, I don't know. Are there any Japanese shaving companies? I can't think of one.
No, there isn't.
Okay, everybody like schlicked here.
Yeah, and plus Japanese guys generally don't have a beard. I mean, they do, but most of them don't grow it out. Because the
Right.
sense of a beard in Japan looks dirty, at least on Japanese men.
Right.
And on foreign guys, I say foreign as in Western, it's a mixed bag.
Right.
Some like it and some don't. So, I don't know.
Huh.
Mm.
Well, I don't know. Well, let me ask you this. So, like, usually, I'm guessing probably people here they want to have probably, but there. Okay, let me say this. There's not that many Japanese YouTubers, though. Are there a lot these days? Has it really grown since like I
It
was
has
doing
grown.
it?
It has grown quite a lot, but I feel like the content has not really developed.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Um, I I feel like a lot of the content is quite the same. And some of the content is slowly emulating what the States is doing.
Right.
For example, what Trum is doing, or 5 minute hacks, where they just churn out videos every so often for the sake of having good watch time and views. But those videos don't really have substance, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if you've ever watched Trum. Have you?
No. I don't even know who that
You
is.
should. I mean,
Okay. Trim.
my
Trim.
God, their video Trum, Troom. Trum. So there, for example, two men are on a ledge. One has a gun. Who will die? And they give you some time, and they say, actually, this question has many opportunities. Thanks for watching. These kind of videos that are weirdly dark, that are for kids, mind you. They make videos that
Okay.
are available for YouTube Kids, but they're kind of dark, right? And there's just a lot of just weird stuff going on there, and Japan is
Yeah.
slowly taking into that path. Um,
So it's gonna be like Elsa Gate, but in Japan.
it's happening. It is happening. It is happening.
Oh boy, that's hilarious. I mean,
I do know a
awful,
guy.
hilarious at the
I
same
do know a
fucking time.
guy. I do know a guy in my company that actually looks at all the questionable content
Oh boy, that must be a
for
fun
Japan.
job.
No, he says it is interesting to see how Japanese slowly take on what the West has done, and Japan for anything is generally 5 years after. Whatever happened in the West States, primarily, it'll catch on 5 years later. Like Facebook took a
Oh,
while, for example, right?
right.
Uh, before it was mixy. But going back to the content creators, there is a lot of content creators, but I feel like there's not enough diversity in the type of content that they create. Um, and I feel that one of the biggest reasons is that agencies have really plastered this sort of content guide, like DMM, for example.
Uh huh.
And so if you notice, anyone that works with DMM, they all make the same type of videos for the same type of sponsors at the same time.
Uh huh.
And there's really not much substance, or there are people that are like, I can't remember this guy in the States, but they give some of these guys a lot of money for the sake of doing crazy things, like how much money do I need to put into an ATM for it to be full? Ha ha ha. Wow, this is amazing. I bought a Lamborghini in coins. Ha ha ha. Things like
Right.
this, where I guess if you're a 10-year-old or whatever, I guess it's entertaining. But for the rest of us that are much more, I guess, the millennials, it's nonsense, really. But I feel like just young
It's good
kids are
buzzwords.
the young kids are the main demographic for YouTube Japan, even.
Right. Well, I mean, that's because kids have all the free time in the world and they have nothing to do except play Fortnite and, you know, I don't know, something that's Minecraft or I don't know, whatever they do nowadays. But like the typical kid today is like has his head stuck on a tablet and just walks around with you,
Well,
which is awful. I mean, I'm kind of really putting down the younger generation, but yeah, there you go.
well, they learn earlier, and that's great and all. But I feel that YouTube has gotten so let's put it this way. YouTube has made it really hard for actual content creators that want to do something new on the platform to shine, because there is a case of just rinse, wash, and repeat for content that works.
Oh,
So,
right. Well, I mean, that's what people want, though, right? They always want like the same damn thing sometimes.
I mean, especially these apology videos are like,
Ah,
guys,
Jesus. Yeah, yeah.
like sitting on a couch, no makeup, and just cry for something. And Japan does something very similar. Actually, there was this there's this really interesting couple on YouTube that the girl is bipolar and she is supposedly suicidal, and she
It's not hiding in my room, is it?
no.
I'm joking. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, but
If
the
anybody
thing
knows
is,
who
is
that
that
is.
the thing is that she claims herself to be an let's just say that she claims to have an open relationship with a lot of men, and
Okay.
she would give a tantrum to all the men that she would be with and record it on YouTube, usually on YouTube Live.
All
And
right.
right. And the premise of the video is that she would like the more money she gets, the more scandalous she is as she gets triggered with men.
Okay.
So then that's what I'm saying. So there's a great line where it just gets really odd and dark, right? That was already
Okay.
shut down, I think. But that I saw that, I'm like, ooh, that does not sound like very good. Does not sound like a very healthy thing to do on YouTube. But I rest my case. So long story short, content on YouTube. Yeah, it's tough, huh? And with talk show hosts on the side, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess probably YouTube's probably under a lot of pressure from because they need that big company dollar money, to stay afloat, right? 'Cause, I mean,
They
that's like
do.
because you're having a whole problem with like the adpocalypse that happened last year, or maybe was that the previous year? I don't even
Last
remember.
year. It was
Was it
last year.
last year? Okay,
Yeah.
when you had a bunch of these admin just pull out. Yeah, well, I don't know. So I mean, it's kind of like because like what was it? The YouTube Rewind this year was just it was so disconnected. Yeah, being the most disliked video on YouTube. Like because I think what was it? Ghostbusters was the most disliked. Ghostbusters trailer was the most disliked video on YouTube. But now the crown is off, and now it goes to the Will Smith Fortnite vehicle.
Yeah. It was disconnected for so many reasons, but one of the things I would say is that there were people that were not on YouTube. People that created content on Twitch, for example,
I
were
mean,
on.
Ninja.
For example, it makes no sense, and there were others as well. And the other thing is, it felt like the dialogue was very, let's try to please as much advertisers as we can, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, it became way more apparent this time around.
Like, Casey Neistat. What we need is K-pop. And
Yeah.
it's like that
Yeah,
was really
that's pretty
awkward for
funny.
me. Yeah,
K-pop. You know what this live stream is? K-pop. That's a pretty good what is it? Soundbite.
yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'm sure they'll probably pivot for next. Well, maybe they won't. They'll probably just have the same shit as this year, or I guess not this year. Last year.
And but the thing is, I also feel like also content for Japan. Let's put gaijins living in Japan type vlogging. I feel like also hard to find new content that gives a different spin to Japan because I feel like everything has been addressed already, right?
Like, what do you think? What do you say? Everything.
My apartment in Japan.
Oh, that kind of stuff. You mean just like the ideas have just
Yeah,
been
this
all
is
done?
my host family in Japan. A
Yeah.
convenience store in Japan. Wow, everything is so oishii desu. Now, all these kind of videos, I've seen one too many already when I was actually actively looking. That now I just avoid them. Yeah.
Well, wait until like PewDiePie moves here, then he does the same thing.
Yeah, but the
I don't
thing
know.
is,
We'll see.
let's just hope let's just hope that he's still relevant before T Series takes over, right?
Yeah, that's kind of a fun thing to watch, I think.
Oh yeah,
I
totally.
don't
It's up to PewDiePie, but you know, but anyway, so you had a list of questions for me, right?
know. I did.
Let's see.
Why you want this is one in here you really want to answer?
No. There's one question you had very interesting. That this one. What direction do you see platforms like YouTube doing here in Japan that you won't see in other countries? Yeah, so that one is very interesting for me.
Okay.
I say that because what I see in Japan is the let's put it this way. The younger generation in Japan
Uh-huh.
have a lot more access to content that's outside of Japan, and they're more willing to see it than versus other generations. So case in point, TikTok, right?
That's
So
interesting.
and TikTok is there's no global lens. There's no like this is the Japan version only, this is the American version. It's all or none, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so they emulate their own kind of touch to content that was popular outside of Japan.
Uh-huh.
And what ends up happening is that it has a global flair and a Japanese flair at the same time. So I see the next content creators really being creative, whereas content creators that are pretty much our ages, they just kind of, you know, so okay, that works for America. Let's just make this for Japan, rather than trying to be creative and bringing the two worlds together. So case in point, Hikakin was kind of like PewDiePie, but for the Japanese audience. But the only
Right.
difference is that he did not sway away from his essentially his way of doing videos, whereas PewDiePie and many points would actually find himself breaking character,
Uh-huh.
where then later at the end he just completely broke character and he's still relevant. Whereas Japanese content creators are still afraid to break character. They would
Right.
rather burn out, right? And you can tell a lot of them are burned out by the content they do.
Why do you say that? Just like, hey guys, I'm here. Oh god. Yeah. Oh no, there's a cockroach in my apartment. Go
Well,
kill it.
there's this guy. There's this
I
obese
watched one of
Japanese.
Hikakin's video. And it was just about finding a fucking cockroach in his apartment. But anyway, sorry. Continue.
Yeah, which is yeah. There's this really obese guy in Japan, and I don't remember his name. Where the premise of his video is to eat a lot of everything,
Okay.
right? And people in the comments often tell him, "Oi, Debu, shine. なんで太ってんの? Why you're so fat? Hey, you fat,
Right.
you
You should
loud, right?
die. Yeah.
Right." Which is not very nice anyway. But
Right. No,
um,
it's
the
just
thing
the
is, the
internet.
premise of the video is like, I want to risk getting diabetes and having a heart attack but get the views. So you are essentially killing yourself to just get views, which
Okay.
makes me think you should really reevaluate your life choices, right?
Well, I
It's like
guess so.
mukbang. It's like mukbang, but like a lot more crazy.
Wait, what? Say that word again? It's
Mukbang.
what bang? What's muff
It's
bang?
the mukbang is essentially the Korean word for eating a lot, where a lot of
Oh,
creators
okay.
in
I didn't know
Korea
this.
they would
Okay.
eat a lot of food in front of the camera. That's where they kind of did the ASMR meanwhile they're eating, like with
Right.
chopsticks or whatever. Yeah,
Right.
and Japanese started doing that.
Huh. Okay. It's copying trends. Huh. I don't know. All
Yeah.
right. Well, let me ask you this. Switching gears here. Uh, what do you think of the concept of podcasts like this one? I mean, they've been around since like 2004, but basically they seem to have really taken off. Why do you think that is?
I think people like to hear actual voices. And I feel that with a podcast, you get to feel the sense of a person. Whereas if you're watching a video, that person has to put a facade. Um, I would say that some of the content creators you and I both know, we can definitely say that the people that we meet in real life are not the same people that we see them on YouTube, right?
Uh-huh.
So, case in point, you and I both know TQ Sam, right?
Yeah.
And you know that in person he's slightly different. I mean, yeah, he could still, you know, raise some eyebrows, but still he's a little different than being on camera, right?
Less screens.
I guess another person that actually surprised me was Give Me a Flake Man when I was hanging out with him way back. Um,
Okay. Victor, who is friend of the show.
yeah, yeah. And I say that because I felt that when I spoke to him, he was a lot more calmed down and just like
Really? Because I kind of felt like he was the same way as he was in his YouTube videos. But okay. He probably
I
is.
don't know, maybe.
Probably because sometimes like I have to kind of look at it in a way like I have to. It's almost like teaching a lesson, because people want to see. Let me put it this way: it's kind of like it's like a performance in a way. It's kind of like because like your voice, a lot of ways, is kind of like a instrument, and you kind of
No,
have to
yeah.
raise it up and down and like do certain things. I mean, I kind of do this myself because it captures people's attention very well. I mean, I do it not only just for myself and other people, but you know, that's what you got to do. I mean,
No,
I
yeah.
guess like things like this and like Twitch, you can't do that 24/7. Like, hey guys, how's it going? This is YouTube. I'm here, and I'm doing. I'm you know.
Well, you have to dye your hair,
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
Yeah.
Did you see what is that? Who is America with Sacha Baron Cohen
Oh yeah.
when he interviewed what's the guy? The prison guy. The prison asylum guy. George Asparagus. Joe
Oh yeah.
Asparo? Joe
I know what you're getting
Asparo.
at. I know what you're getting at. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was imitating a YouTuber because like he had dyed hair and like they were doing
Yeah.
unboxing videos. I don't know. It feels like such lowbrow culture. It feels like doing karaoke without the music.
Yeah. Yeah. So, question for me to you: what is the most common question you get from listeners about Japan?
Listeners about Chan, you never usually get any questions, really. Because I mean, it seems like most people today, they just really want to just consume. They don't really want to ask questions. Because that takes too much effort, Asking questions, making content, nah. I'd rather sit back, relax, and enjoy the IMAX experience, you know? I don't like having decisions. I don't like having choices. I don't
I
know. Maybe I'm
guess. I
wrong.
guess. I guess.
Or maybe I just haven't found the right haters yet or something.
You're lucky then.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still in a vacuum. Actually, a former guest of the show, Jimmy Sanchez, somebody found one of his videos and they're complaining that he was e-bagging, and it has more views than his entire channel has ever gotten, and it's just making fun of him. I'm like, I wonder when this is going to happen to me. Or like, I'm going to make one video and it's completely taken out of context. All these people are going to be dunking on me. Like, oh, great. Well, what should I do now? I guess number one question about Japan. I don't know. I don't really get any questions. Just sort of like statements, I guess, which is probably a good thing. Because like there are those annoying questions, like the namesake of the show. Why did you come to Japan? Because some people get annoyed by it. You never
Which
get
I
annoyed
never
by that.
understood. I don't.
That's good. I don't
Actually,
really get annoyed by it. I actually kind of like it, and I am kind of annoyed, but whatever.
I actually get that, and I get that from other people, and I also get. I don't know if sometimes I see things too much, but have you ever been walking around certain areas in Tokyo, and you often come in and you see a Westerner, an American, or a Brit, whatever, that is often at that town, and it seems to be a bit like turf wars, where you make the stare of, "Hey, this is my parts of Japan. What are you doing in my parts of Japan?" Not everyone's like that, obviously, but there are some people that they're like, "I've been in Japan for 2 years. I know the Japan. I know enough Japan to say that I could speak for Japan on Japan's behalf."
Oh, like
I
The Kruger Dunning effect.
Yeah,
You know what
that
that
is
is?
something that pisses me off a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. I mean, like it's kind of like the Kruger for our audience out there, the audience of 10 people that are watching. Uh, for our audience out there, for anybody who's listening or watching or whatever, or you know, however it is you get this podcast into your mind. Kruger Dunning effect is thinking that by knowing such a little amount of information, you're greater than you actually are. So, for example, there was one guy who thought putting lemon juice on your face would make every security camera not be able to see you, right? That kind of thing. So, like people who are in Japan maybe for like 5 minutes, they completely act like they're experts on Japan. Whereas sometimes you have problems where here in Japan, it's like the opposite. That people they think they can't do anything, but they can actually do way more than they really actually think they can.
I see. I see.
You don't think so? I definitely see that all the time. Like saying, I know this, like, because I'm a teacher, and like there's certain things where it's like I know this kid can do it. I know he can do it. He's just being, he's just being a bitch. Yeah. I don't know what better. I
Yeah.
don't know a better way to define it, but that's the way I'm going to say it.
Yeah. No.
Uh, but going back to the idea of podcasts, I think the reason why people like podcasts is because our lives have just become increasingly more busy, and it's a lot of fun to, like, because sometimes we kind of miss out on our social life, and there's no real way to, like, connect or have real conversations or listen to real people talk, except you have podcasts. And so you can jog, you can wash dishes, you can do shit around your house, while you randomly listen to people. I mean, because I do that, I do it all the time. So I think
And
that's
I
what the
think,
value of podcasts have become.
and can I add to that as well?
Yeah, what's up?
And I think another thing that, this is just my view of things, I could be completely wrong, is the loneliness and being a gaijin sometimes. I say that because I feel like when you're in Japan, you have this little glass ceiling on top of you when you
Okay.
have a Western face. And it just feels really hard to break the barrier to make actual friends. I'm not saying you cannot. I'm just saying it takes a lot more effort than, say, if you were doing it back at home, or in my case in Singapore, it's extremely easy versus Japan. I mean, it's night and day, really, the difference. So I feel then what you feel is that the only way to make friends is that you make friends that are quite superficial. So I recall I would go to these meetups or even Gaidomo,
Uh-huh.
and most of the time it would be girls that just want to talk to a foreigner to see, like, hey, teach me English, or let's just have some drinks and I guess have fun throughout the night. But to
Wink,
actually
wink, nudge,
make,
nudge.
yeah, and that was fine when I was in my early 20s, fine. But then
Yeah.
when you get older, you just want to make real connections with local people, and that gets really hard. Um, so then you feel the sense of loneliness where you have friends, you know people, but you don't really know who to talk to when you want to have something, when you want to know if the way you see Japan is correct or not. You know what I mean? Like,
Uh-huh.
if I were alone in Japan, I was listening to this podcast, I would think, oh, there's other people that see Japan the way I do. I'm not weird. I actually see it this way as well, right? So
Huh.
it's a form of self-vindication. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's the way I see
Maybe
it.
that's the problem with this podcast. It's only Japan centric. It's not open enough. But I don't know. Maybe that's why
Make it to
people come to
Singapore.
what?
Make it to Singapore.
Make it to Singapore. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we have durian.
Durians. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
all people know. They have rules and durians and segregation. Lots of it.
and lashings if you bring drugs over here, where they'll lash you to death.
That's
So,
right. I heard that Crash Test Dummies song. That
yeah.
Weird Al. That Weird Al parodied and talked about whippings in Singapore.
Yep. Yep.
That's how I get my news, through Weird Al. All right. So, what do you predict the future will look like in terms of technology that we are using now versus the technology we'll probably be using in 2040?
I think that advertising, because I do analytics, but I primarily work in the realm of marketing and advertising, where I do a lot of the work in. Let's put it this way: if you think ads are invasive now, I think in 5-20 years they're gonna be a lot more invasive, because we are gonna know more about you than you know about yourself.
Okay,
Right.
that's scary, but yeah, that's probably true as well.
I mean, if you have, and I don't want to be negative, but if you think you could have some sort of privacy on social media, you're wrong.
Well, yeah,
If
I could have told you that, but yeah.
I mean Facebook, I mean, come
Continue.
on.
Sorry. I don't mean to be the fucking peanut gallery here.
No, that's fine, Jack Edelstein. But the thing is that um, the way that we're consuming data and drawing inferences from it has really skyrocketed with AI and machine learning right now. And
Right.
we have a lot more signals to be able to identify. Like, for example, right now there is a cause to use machine learning against emojis to identify emotions of people that tweet or write on Facebook, and with those emotions to see if this person feels this way, perhaps this person should see this type of advertisement because they're vulnerable. Vulnerable, pardon.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, so now they're doing emoji learning.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's insane, but yes.
Well, because I mean, I've read things on about how like you have these certain apps, like let's say you have like the Uniqlo app for clothes, and like if you agree to their terms, they can probably find out how often you've walked by a Uniqlo, and so whenever you walk by a Uniqlo, you'll get a notification that says, "Hey, you can get 25% off on pants or whatever." Right?
Yes,
You're
I've seen
like,
that. That happened to my phone when I was in Japan. Yes.
this is wait, that's real? I was just like giving an example
No,
because I've
it's
heard
real.
stuff.
It's real.
Okay.
So, if you're friends with Uniqlo and you also consent to having your location accessible online, then
Right.
whenever you are at or near a Uniqlo online, you'll get a pop-up saying you're at Uniqlo. Tap here to get a coupon,
Right.
which is really unsettling, quite honestly, because you could just be passing by.
Well, I don't know. I guess it's better than like getting random ads sent to you that you don't really want, like saying something, here's some cat food. It's 25% off. Like, what? Like, I don't want this. Like,
Yeah.
here's one thing. I remember seeing some graph that said something like the number one most clicked ads, and the number one most clicked ad is like always dating and personal stuff, right? And the best way to get rid of dating and personal stuff is just to like change that you're married, and all the ads magically change. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
you definitely say less privacy, more ads. I don't know anything positive. Which we look forward to the future of YouTube or Google
Better,
or
I guess, better algorithms to match people for dating.
okay, better algorithm for dating, better algorithms to get rid of annoying middlemen.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good benefits to society as well with machine learning. Um, the so case in point, in Japan, Pairs is the number one dating app over there, and it is actually, from what I've used, it was pretty good. Case in point, I found a partner that I really want to be with through that, right?
Okay,
And it was actually legitimately good. It's not like Tinder where you're just looking for, some fun.
you're looking for somebody to get an ice cream sundae with.
Yeah,
You're looking for a new pair of
yeah. The thing is, it's
glasses.
all in Japanese,
I
but if you
don't
go
know.
beyond that barrier, it's
There's a
great.
joke in there somewhere. Anyway,
Yeah,
sorry, continue. I'm cutting you off. It's awful. Go on.
that's fine. That's fine. You know, but let me see the chat myself. Let's see what's going on here. Oh wow.
We're just talking about hot dads and uh
Uh, oh yeah.
overwork, and it's not the most exciting mosh pit right now. I'm just
No,
glad. One thing I will say, one thing that's great about being a smaller YouTuber is you can still have the chat on, and it's not like a river of comments. You know, like a whitewater raft of like
yeah,
comments. Have you seen that? Like you watch big people like PewDiePie or Markiplier or
it's
any of
insane.
the.
It's
It's just
insane.
like you
Yeah,
can't look at it. It's like it'll give you a headache if you try to
no,
read just one. You know, or
no, yeah.
but yeah, that so that's one good thing about being a small YouTuber. You can kind of have like peace, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know. Um, so like I see that so content creators, what is your thoughts then? I'm really curious to hear from you because I feel like you've really devoted a lot of your time to studying films and media and
Uh,
emulating that to your content.
right.
Um, because like I know I bring this up every time I talk to you, but Daikon Ashi I was really looking forward to.
Yeah,
Because it's not just like,
it's not a good movie. That's why I haven't released it. So
yeah, I see 7 out of 7. Yeah. The thing is that you know, I don't know. What is your thoughts on like the ecosystem for gaijins that make Japan videos? I feel like
Good
it's turn
question.
repeat.
Oh no, I mean right now it's rinse, dry, repeat. But I mean, it's just like it was kind of expected. Like somebody like abroad in Japan would eventually come here, and a guy like him would eventually like dominate it. You know, and I mean he has. Uh, so probably everybody's following him, and that's what everybody needs to make, and things like that. But I would say it's relatively difficult because there's it's kind of too segregated, Western creators versus Japanese creators, because um, Japanese creators, they kind of only just want to partner with their own kin or their own
Right,
kind, because it's not, they kind of don't really want them stealing their thunder, so to say.
right.
They definitely don't want that. But I mean, you kind of have to. I mean, like, what this whole podcast has pretty much been about. You just kind of have to find that balance, because sometimes things can work here, and sometimes they just don't. Or sometimes you just make up some fucking word to explain something here. Like, I learned so many freaking unnecessary words about how to explain things, like just in Japan.
I mean, I say that because it's interesting. Because if you look at Eric Search 6, he
Uh-huh.
completely did a different direction, and he's getting quite some traction, huh?
Yeah. Oh, you mean like the Eric Mealtime thing? Yeah. No, he's kind of an interesting case study. He definitely doesn't follow the typical like I'm in Japan and it's awesome, kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Because he just kind of does long takes. It's kind of like watching him's kind of like being with your dad. You're having
Yes.
a beer with your dad.
Yes. 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 That's what it feels like. I saw that there was dad in the chat. I think that might be the direction that you're going with, but
Yeah, because
I don't
that's
know.
2019. That's what everybody wants to see. Hot dads hooking up with my dad. Dads are coming
Yeah.
back.
I guess I don't know, but I don't know. The thing is that there is that segregation, but I think it happens because of the gaijin phases that happen, right? You're in the
Okay.
first phase, like everything's amazing in Japan, then everything sucks in Japan. Then I kind of like some things, but I don't know how to split myself from being totally Japanese and totally myself. Then to later, you get settled with someone, you realize you're 8 to 10 years. Okay, I live here, and then you come to the sense of full acceptance where you just are who you are and you just accept that no matter what you do, you're never going to be Japanese. And I don't mean that ethnically, right? I mean that as a person in society. Even if you have your PR, even if you have your citizenship, you're not going to be. I do really applaud and find influence and, just give my hats off to people like what's that, Eddie Inoue, who actually renounced his American citizenship. But regardless, it's really hard. So I think when you're dealing with those type of situations, you tend to create content that is a bit of a self healer as well. To be like, this is what I see. Are you seeing it as well? Oh, you are. Okay, so I'm not crazy, right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah, there is that.
yeah.
All right. So, a question from the chat. I mean, it's okay. Before I pivot here, it sounded like you were deep in thought. Did I break your concentration?
No, that's fine. I'm just reading it. So half of the Tinder profiles in Japan have pictures of food or anime characters. I would like to add also a lot of snow, which is kind of like the Snapchat equivalent, filters as well, which is
Snow
that
filters. That's
means
the end thing now.
yeah, which means
Okay.
you're yeah. Anyway, what's the question?
Wait, what does it mean? It means something?
Snow is an app. It's an app just like
Oh, is
Snapchat
it?
where
I
you can
know. I
put
thought that was like they have pictures of snow, and I'm like, okay.
yes, that's the
Who
next
knows?
big thing in
Who knows
Japan.
what's fucking popular these days? I don't know.
You sound like a dad.
Okay. Well, this is the Dad podcast. I should just name it. Why come Japan? Why come Japan with Dad?
Well, it should be Japan stories with dad.
Japan stories with Dad. Yeah, very
Yeah,
dad jokes, dad
yeah.
questions, dad opinions.
Like
All right. So DQ Sam in the chat asks, "What's your favorite gay porn?" My
uh
favorites. Lord of the Cock Rings. No, I don't know. I don't watch gay porn. Let me type in some titles, like good, because like they always have the best porn titles. Gay porn title. What's yours favorite, Sebastian?
I don't have any. The only thing that I think would resonate with Sam is Bible Black.
Bible
But
Black. But that's not gay porn though.
well, it's in the eye. It's with the eye of the beholder. Well, you could see it that way. I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah.
Sam's pretty much saying this podcast needs to be more gay. So I'll try. I'm gonna try.
I don't know. I don't know.
I just Googled it and it says the top 100 gay, top 100 selling gay porn movies of all time at DVD Empire. Wonder what number
You
one
know what
is.
would be interesting? Actually, to read those titles in Japan on DMM adults. What are the top ones right now? Japanese porn titles are so descriptive. It's insane.
Really? Like, name
Yeah.
one. Like, oh, that's actually no. I do know what you're talking about. Like sometimes I've seen some of these. They do have like these long like mom fucks son and tells us about it, and he's very jealous, but he doesn't want to tell anybody else, so therefore it's a really bad thing. Right? Something like that, right?
I remember I was passing by Don Quixote. Have this area where they have these hands where they're like 18 only, and I went in because I was just curious. And they had some videos, and one that was like amazing. It was like I was going to school, but I was late, so I went back home, and then I saw my mother naked, and I got excited. So then things happened, like something like that. I was like, that's a long title. And
Yeah.
I don't get the fascination with incest, but okay.
Because it's a taboo. It's forbidden. That's why.
I don't get it.
It's the first. It's like they're the first woman you ever meet in your life. They're the first. They're the first man you ever meet in your life.
So wait a second. So when I open my eyes, the first guy I meet is you. You're my dad.
I guess so. I don't know.
I don't know.
All right, so I looked up the titles. Number 1 is Man Watcher. Number 2 is Jeff Stryker's Underground. Number 3 is Idol Country. Number 4 is Conquered. Number 5 is Cum Suckers Trilogy. Then Frisky Summer 4. For some reason, the 4 was really good. Here we go. Cream B-Boys. Here's a good one. Tight Asian Manholes. Team Play.
I mean, let's just put it in consideration. That's an actual list. And all I can say to that is, wow. But with all seriousness,
this was my favorite. How the West Was Hung. It's a good one. Anyway, keep going. Sorry.
I feel like all the questions you had for me went out the window. But anyway.
Yeah, no. I love gay porn titles. Pretty cool.
I mean, if let's put it this way. I respect anyone with any orientation. So if that's what you're swinging for, I respect your decisions.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's 2019,
I mean,
hey, here you go. Swim Meet. What is this? The Other Side of Aspen 1. Anyway, no, I'll stop. This is probably really fucking annoying for some of the audience members. Anyway.
Yeah.
You don't have any favorite porn titles? Okay. Well, I don't know. Then again, it's like if you're watching porn, you probably don't really think of the title. It's like Butt Sluts 4. That's where it's at. Fourth one's really good. Third one, I don't know, didn't really reach the climax it should have. But
for me, I was really late in my years when I actually started seeing it.
Porno? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I can't remember the first porno I saw.
But when I did see it, it was the most damaging because back then in AOL, we had these chat rooms where you just type subscribe and you will get a mailing list of anything that you want. And
you mean porn on the internet? You didn't watch videotapes? I mean, you're the same age as me, right?
I think you're older than me.
Am I? Okay.
Yeah, Dad.
31.
Oh, I'm 30. So
wait, so you're a year. That's not that
you're
much.
a Heisei or Showa?
I'm Heisei. I'm
Showa.
Heisei Jump.
Well, we're gonna have a new year thing, by the way. But
Yeah, we're gonna have a new empire or emperor.
Empire.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, no, because the first one I ever saw was, I think it was a videotape, and I was just kind of, I don't know, because like porn in America, it's like the girls they always get, they look horrible, and it's so weird seeing porn in Japan where like let me put it this way, the way I've always heard it said was, um, the way people say it is like sometimes they have girls in porn in America, and the attitude is too cute for porn. But like in Japan, it's like not cute enough for porn.
Yeah. Another thing that I've noticed.
I'm sorry. Are you uncomfortable talking about this? I'll get off the topic.
No, I mean it's not that. It's just like we just took a turn, and I'm just reading. What to kill Sam's.
Kyo Sam is TKO Sam's gay brother. Kyo
Yeah,
Sam.
I mean, I don't know. Sucks what happened to Mark, by the way, right?
Oh, so for some context, Tokyo Sam's friend was framed and put into prison for being sent meth.
Is there like a Kickstarter for that?
Yeah, I think there's a GoFundMe. I should probably put in the chat. I'm not sure what his situation is. Man, that really sucks about his friend. So, but
yeah, the thing is, he'll be an interesting person to have on the podcast, right?
Well, I don't know. It's like, well, he has to leave Japan as soon as he gets out, right?
Well,
because like if you get wanted for a crime in Japan, you're like, that's it, it's game over, right?
Well, the thing is, Japan is guilty until proven innocent, right? Pretty much. Right.
Oh, so they still have to figure out what happened?
I don't even know the whole story. All I do know is that the person that I knew, I would never think that would happen. So I think there's a bigger story to that, but who knows?
Who cares? I don't know. All right. That's awful. I shouldn't say that. All right. I wish the best for Mark, and I hope things work out for him. Anyway, we're talking about a guy that nobody knows. And, well, I don't know. It's a YouTube thing, so I guess it's all right.
Well, he makes frequent cameo appearances in Sam's videos.
Okay, so
Sam's videos.
So it's still hashtag relevant.
Yeah, and he idolizes him like Jesus. There's a lot of times where he's like the next forthcoming of Christ.
Right.
His videos. I think
it kind of reminds me of how PewDiePie makes fun of Jacksepticeye on his channel all the time. Anyway, continue.
Yeah.
I'm like the massive interrupter here. You please forgive me. I'm being really dad right now, but
yeah.
Ninjaru88 says in Japan you are guilty until proven guilty.
Well, actually, I think being deported would be his better option, because what I've noticed is that the actual treatment of prisoners is really hush-hush. There's not much information out, and it seems to be very, very bleak.
Right. Well, I mean, what's that guy? The guy who created Bitcoin.
The Mt. Gox. Yeah.
When he went to prison, there's before and after pictures of him that float online where like he was a real big fat guy, and then he went to Japanese prison and he's like a real like classy looking stud because he's like really thin and but yeah, I don't know it because I had a friend who went to Temple here in Japan and they got busted for stealing things at Don Quixote, and that I didn't really get to talk to them because I wasn't really friends with them. I was just like friends of a friend. But it basically said like I think I heard through the grapevine that it was sort of like they have the lights on 24 hours a day or something, and you have to sleep with the lights on, or I don't know. I'm talking out of my ass here because I don't know what I'm talking about. But what do you know?
There's actually a really great documentary on this.
Oh, really?
Yes, I could send you a link later. It's a French journalist who actually went in and out of one of the most infamous prisons in Tokyo.
Okay.
And they have general prison cells where you have to act obedient and build things that will contribute to society. And if you go against it, then they put you in this confinement area where essentially you have no life. And unlike prisons in the United States where you wait for trial to be able to know if you're going to be set to death, in Japan, they don't tell you the date on when they'll kill you in the event they send you to death. So essentially, what's that? A death sentence, they call it. So there's a lot of things there in that the UN is against. That's really inhumane in terms of how they treat prisoners, but Japan's like, So there's that.
Huh. All right. Well, I think we went past my normal bedtime. So, I mean, normally I just do this show for an hour, but is there anything you want to say before we go?
Yeah. What is the plan to? You said you're going to change the podcast a bit. I mean, like.
Yeah.
What?
Well, I mean, I was going to talk about this greater in detail in a different podcast, but yeah, no. Why Camp Japan will still be around. It's just I was thinking because there's more things I want to do on YouTube. I guess I can just say it now. Because like certain things that happen in my life, and I want to talk about them, and you never really know. I mean, the thing about weird thing about life is sometimes you kind of feel like you have choices, or you have the illusion of choice, or some things kind of happen. Things happen to miracles, like that feel like a miracle. For example, like let's say a man falls off a bicycle or something, and you go like say, "Hey, are you all right?" And he's like, yeah, thanks for picking me up, man. It's like, man, I really don't know what I'm gonna do, uh I need somebody to help me at the proofread my job at Google or something, or some big company, right? And then that's how you got your job working at Google, or that's how you got your job working wherever, right? Because you found this was the path you took, because that was the one you decided to take. So it gets to the point where it's sort of like, screw it, I'm just going to talk about whatever I want when I want. Because I was trying to do these things like video essays, which just take forever to make. So it's just like I'm gonna have to. I mean, still gonna try to make some of those when I have the time. But for the most part, like for example, if I want to talk about the new Black Mirror episode Badger Snatch that just came out, the choose your own adventure thing, I can talk about it. I can just make a thing about it because it's the Radrey podcast, and I can talk about the philosophy behind it and stuff like that. And it has nothing to do with Japan, but I feel like there's certain things that should be said or put about there on the internet, and you never know where a road will take you. And that's pretty much what I want to do.
That's awesome. And all the best to you on that. I've always tried to kind of do a YouTube video, but I always put it off because I have never had my angle in what I wanted to create yet,
Yeah.
But I do kind of have an angle now that I'm here in Singapore, ironically enough. So we'll see about that. And also, one of the things that I would really love to touch on, maybe with you in some other capacity, about mental health in Japan, actually.
Okay.
I don't know. I've actually had the experience in going to a consulate in Japan for the sake of knowing how it works. And practices in Japan are a little outdated, let's put it that way.
Okay.
Right. So, for example, case in point, in the States, if you have stress from your job, it's not one visitation to give proof that you are too stressed from your job and you need a break. But in Japan, they give you those ink blots, right? And they say, oh, you just draw out a tree. You could just draw like a really crappy tree. And they would say, oh, well, you look like you have depression. And I would go, I just am terrible at drawing. That doesn't necessarily mean I have depression. So the comprehension of mental health in Japan is really lacking. And it's really concerning, especially in my field, because you have engineers that are overworked. So they just go to really extreme ends to be able to make sense of their lives, and they just burn out. They all burn
Right.
out.
Right.
I'm telling you, the talent pool is low because of that as well. And I feel like there's just a lot of obstacles there. But in the end, it comes to gaman, like just the sense of just like taking it all, don't say anything. And I feel like it's actually Japan shooting itself in the foot, really, without trying to take in a lot more education on that. But I don't know. Those are the things I would love to discuss at some point.
Yeah, no, I mean it's an ongoing problem, and I don't think it's going to be fixed at any point anytime soon. So it's bitches be crazy and problems be problems. But I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would like to see more mental health related things in Japan. That's definitely a thing. I guess one more thing I wanted to tell you before I guess we end today's show.
Sure.
No, the new podcast is basically it's gonna just be like a journey for me because like a lot of doing these podcasts, like every guest I have, I kind of pick up something from each guest, and they kind of help me pivot my direction because sometimes like I ask them certain kind of the samey questions or like general questions I've just always had, and they've kind of given me some paradigm shifts here and there. And it kind of, and then, I mean, the whole Radrey thing it's just sort of like, I was thinking more of like, it's better to have like just a name out there on the internet versus just, sticking to one formula. Because this show, as it's structured, is just me talking about why somebody came to Japan. I mean, which is a good question and it has like lots of answers. But I feel like life in general just kind of has more questions, and then you just kind of have to answer those questions and then see where it takes you, and that's what the Radrey podcast is going to be. Anyway,
I think
I got to plug that here.
Yeah, I think what you have to offer is going to be really interesting once you get much more settled in Japan, because I think
I'm not settled already. Or
what I mean by that is marriage.
Oh, okay. All right.
Getting further close to your partner's family and integrating into Japan, because then you get to be part of the family, which then in case means you take on a lot of social responsibilities.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not so keen on marriage right now because I mean it's just sort of like that thing is it's really irreversible. It's not like something like, well, I'm married. Well, I'm done. See ya. Bye.
There's divorce.
Yeah, there's always divorce, and it's sort of like, what is it? Fucking Jeff Bezos is in the news right now, and he's
right.
like, how much is his wife going to get? I mean, like Paul McCartney, when he got divorced, she got half of the Beatles' estate. It's insane. So I mean, it's just like if I'm going to get married, I mean, I will probably eventually will, but it's just sort of like I want to be goddamn fucking careful. I better like I'm going to be making sure I'm crossing every T, dotting every I. And I guess, yeah, maybe when I get settled, like you said, I'll finally flow into the wind and become omnipotent. And
yeah, because I could tell you that because of my experience.
All right, I want to hear this.
At the pace that I'm going with my partner, I'm definitely seeing myself taking a lot more social responsibilities in Japan.
Okay, you're not in Japan right now.
I still visit a lot anywhere.
Oh, okay, well that's right.
So
I guess you're pretty close. That's not too far. It's like 8 hours or something.
Like from here is 5 hours.
5 hours.
You're going with the wind, right?
Right.
So
that's right. It's always faster when it's with the wind.
Yeah, It's like from New York to California, right? And you take on responsibilities like, how do I even explain this? Like in my case, my partner works with Ikebana, right? So yeah, and so it's a very traditional industry. So what that means is that I have to do a lot of these formal introductions with people, and my connections to grow. And these connections you have to keep forever, and you have to keep in the back of your mind on how to leverage these connections for things you might need in the future, right? So you get further into the hole with people. Whereas when you're just a fresh off the boat gaijin, you're by yourself really. And you go through these phases of, I'm going to go to Hub primarily because everyone speaks English. to kind of like, let me try to integrate in Japan, or maybe not, you know.
All right. Well, I think that's a good note to end on. All right, guys. Well, I'm Jake Black Edelstein, and I want to thank everybody for watching. Next week on our show is Mr. Hiko Simon. You may have heard of him. He's a YouTuber. He does a show called Tokyo Tonight live stream. Has pretty good numbers. I hope he likes being on the show. I want to thank everybody who's watching. If you have any good gay porn titles, put them down in the comments below, because I'd like to see good ones, because I'm collecting gay porn titles for some goddamn reason. And until then, I'm Radrey, or Jake Black, or Jake Edelstein, and you are
Sebastian.
Go on, introduce yourself. All right, let's try it again. All right. And until then, I'm Radrey and
Sebastian.
See you guys.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.